Hey, Terry, Hodgkinson, Sifu. I thought I would continue with reading another chapter from my book, Memoirs of a Wandering Ninja, Walking the Path of Enlightenment, published in 2009, and seems like such a long time ago now. I still get emails from time to time asking me different questions about some of the aspects in the chapters that I wrote on, and I thought, I'm going to read the beginning story from chapters 5 onward, and then explain, because those stories are very personal to me. I wrote them specifically with an experience that I had or somebody close to me had in mind. And of course, they're learning experiences, so I hope you enjoy them. The chapter today is chapter 6, and the chapter heading title is Mastering Your Perception. The story's name or title is Your Perception Equals Your Reality. In the community where many wise masters of the way lived, they opened their doors to anyone who wanted to learn. Students of varying ages and backgrounds made their way to the village to learn the great secrets of martial arts. On one particular day, the lesson was about breaking solid concrete with the bare hand. The lead master instructor this day was Chameleon Master. He passed around the brick for everyone to examine, to check to see that it was solid and had no damage. So let me just show you what one of those looks like. Okay, so it's a patio stone, and you can see the thickness of it here, and it's very solid, which you might see from this if I don't lose my page. Very solid, okay? So that's what we're talking about. And I'll tell you why I came up with this story from my own personal experience after I'm finished with it. The humble and wise Chameleon Master set up a number of bricks and stood over them. After a short period of silence that looked as if he was focusing his mind, his arm shot down in one smooth, concise motion. The palm of his hand struck the top center of the first brick, and without hesitation continued downward through all the other bricks, breaking them into pieces. All that was heard in the class was the crashing of the broken pieces of a brick as they hit the floor. Chameleon Master gently stood up, straight, and showed everyone his hand. He opened and closed it rapidly to demonstrate that his hand had not been damaged. The 60 stunned students watching on the sidelines began clapping enthusiastically. "Thank you, but please," Chameleon Master said, "you do not need to clap for this act that you have just witnessed. It is merely an extension of the mind. It is no different than walking, riding a bike, or playing sport." One student spoke up. "Chameleon Master, what do you mean, an extension of your mind?" "When I have a task to perform, I first think about what is required to do that task. I then practice doing it correctly in my mind by visualizing the preferred end result. In this case, I saw my hand penetrating through the bricks. Then, I manifested the exact action of what I visualized in my mind. Thus, my hand that broke the bricks was an extension of what I had already seen in my mind." Then he asked, "So who wants to come up and have this be true for them?" The bricks were patio stones about 2 inches thick. After a moment of silence, Kano, a local potato farmer, said he would like to try. As he stood up, there was no doubt in anyone's mind that he would break the brick. Kano was a huge, strapping man. His arms were the thickness of most people's legs, and he had well-defined muscles that had been developed from the common task of hauling around sacks of potatoes, which his livelihood depended upon or required. When Kano walked up front, Chameleon Master showed him the correct part of his hand to strike the brick with, and had him practice the motion beside the brick so that the mechanics of his movement were correct. Kano set himself in place, and the students began to visualize the brick cracking in two from the size of Kano's massive arms. Some smiled eagerly at others in anticipation. Chameleon Master, however, noticed tremors in Kano's focus, prompting him to say, "Let nothing else enter your mind except for the successful image of breaking the brick." Kano agreed and proceeded to visualize his upcoming action. Then his massive arm fell upon the brick, and to the total surprise of all of the attentive class, the brick did not break, and Kano's hand was stopped dead on the surface. He looked at Chameleon Master and asked if he could try again. "Of course you can, but Kano, try not. Do or do not. There is no try." After a few moments of preparation, Kano's sledgehammer-like arm came down toward the brick, but not with the smooth, fast, penetrating motion required. Rather, it was slower and jerky in its descent. Once again, the class was stunned that Kano's arm or hand had stopped at the surface of the brick. It was truly hard to believe that a man of his size was unable to break it. After all, he was much larger than even Chameleon Master. Wise Chameleon Master was not surprised. He could see that the motion of Kano's arm reflected the state of his mind. Before you committed to breaking the brick, what was in your mind? Fear that the brick was too hard. "Right," said Chameleon Master. "And what was the end result?" "I was unable to break the brick," Kano said. "Yes, that is correct. And your experience has taught the class an invaluable lesson. Thank you, and please have a seat now." Another student in the class asked Chameleon Master, "What lesson are you referring to, Chameleon Master?" "That your action is an extension of your mind." Chameleon Master asked if anyone else at this time would like to come up and break the brick. A minute went by and no one had budged. Many in the class had a hard time believing it could be done at this point. They all figured that if Kano couldn't break the brick with his muscular size, how could it be possible that anyone else would succeed? Before long, from a far corner, a young lady whose name was Tian spoke out. "I would like to." Her voice was soft, but Chameleon Master heard every word and invited her up. No one in the class could believe that Chameleon Master would let her come up and do this, as she was only 13 years old and scrawny, skinny looking. She could put both her arms together and they still wouldn't equal the size of one of Kano's arms. Chameleon Master showed her the part of the hand to hit the brick with and had her practice the proper mechanics of motion. Finally, Chameleon Master said, "Remember, what you are about to do is but an extension of your mind. So, whatever you hold in your mind is crucial to the end result." Tian nodded, set herself up over the brick, and just like Kano had. And then she took a half minute to visualize her action. Then her skinny, scrawny arm came down with the palm of her hand leading the way. But unlike Kano, her hand penetrated the brick and broke it into two pieces. There was dead silence from the others in the class who were in disbelief. The end result, however, was undeniable. Chameleon Master walked over and picked up the two halves of the brick and handed them to the young lady. "Take them home with you," he said, "and let this always be a reminder of the lesson you have learned here today." After meditation, the class was almost ready to finish and leave for home when one of the previously deliberating students asked, "Why are you called the Chameleon Master?" Master Chameleon said, "The chameleon is a lizard and is known for its mastery of adaptation. It possesses the ability to change itself in regard to what is needed for the time. Very much like how we look at things needs to change at different times also. This is why they call me the Chameleon Master. I am here to help you master your perception. A little quote at the end of the story by Carl Jung. It all depends on how we look at things and not how they are in themselves. So, the reason I wrote this story in the perception chapter is because I remember back to an experience that I had. There's two experiences that I drew this story from. One was actually a potato farmer who had come up and had tried to break a brick and couldn't do it. And then a young lady, pretty sure she was around 15 years old, somewhere around there, did actually break the brick. So this is based on a true story from my own experience of watching that particular scene take place. The other experience I had was when I was 15 or 16 years old and I was in an instructor's class. I had just joined the apprenticeship program. And I watched one of the senior instructors being guided by a master instructor how to break a brick. And he did exactly what Kano did. He kept coming down, only he didn't just try it twice. He must have tried it 8 or 9 times. And his hand was pretty badly hurt the last time because it built up after a while of smacking solid concrete. And you could see in his mind the fear and the anxiety. You could see that the image wasn't of him in his mind going through the brick. It was of his hand hitting it and hurting, not going through. And nobody said that, but I could see it as I was watching. And of course, I was the youngest in class in the instructor's program and just literally started the apprenticeship program not that long ago. So I had no fear of being asked to do this because I just assumed that I would not be asked at my age and at my experience level. Well, for some reason, after the senior instructor who had tried over and over again, couldn't do it anymore. Physically, his hand it was pretty beaten up. He was asked to have a seat, and for some reason, the master instructor looked right at me. I don't know if he could see I had the process in my mind clear or not. It just was my own personal thinking, but it was like he reached into my mind and said, "Okay, you got it. You get up here and you try it." And he said, "Mr. Hodgkinson, come on over here and break this brick." Well, I'll tell you, that comfortable feeling of sitting there and watching just vanished as soon as I was asked to come up. And of course, I had a lot of faith in my teacher and respect, and you did what you were asked to do. So I got up, and the first thing I said in my mind was, I'm not going to go over and over like the senior instructor did and over and build up that anxiety and that stress. I'm just going to break it, and if it breaks, it breaks, and if it doesn't, it doesn't, but I'm not going to let the anxiety, the stress, the feeling of worrying about what's going to happen build in my mind like I saw. So I went up, I breathed 3 times so I could just focus on clearing my mind and have the end result of breaking the brick, and I broke it. My hand went through like butter. I couldn't believe it was so easy. It was like there was not even a brick there. I was really, really blown away. It was a good experience for me at my age. But in every yang experience, there's a little bit of yin too, and vice versa. So I remember when I was teaching kids class next, I put up a brick and I thought, this is going to be easy. I'm going to show them how this is done. And I had never attempted it, and it probably was about 8 months later than the time I had broke the brick, and I thought, well, I'm going to do it for these kids. I went to break the brick and my hand bounced off. I was overconfident. I thought that it was easy peasy and it's not going to be a problem, and my hand, because I wasn't in that same zone, that same focus, bounced off a few times until I got back into the zone, until I emptied my mind and pulled the principles that I knew I needed to have and the visualization that I knew I needed to have and committed to it, and I broke it. So it was another good lesson. But anyways, that experience, and then watching the farmer and the young lady do this and how it turned out completely differently in relation to their sizes, but that mental focus was and is so very important. So I'm going to leave you with that story to dwell on, contemplate, think about, whatever you want to do. There's lots of videos of me breaking bricks online. I might post a link to one so you can see it done. But that's it for now. So I hope you enjoyed Your Perception Equals Your Reality from the chapter of Mastering Your Perception.
If we can just cooperate with the first exercise, I'm going to get you right into it. No stopping here, okay? So I'm going to have everybody come up and break a brick. Just kidding, okay? Just kidding, just kidding. Now,
see? That's how hard it is. Now,